is up, Podheads? Back with another episode of the Podioslave podcast. My name is Tony, joined as always by Anthony and Nate. And we're going to, belly up to the bar tonight. We're going to go a little prediction-y. We're going to talk about where we're coming from and where we're going. But first off, how you boys doing? I haven't asked in a while.
Friday night. I'm good. And it's late. Do you want to tell what time?
10:13 on the East Coast, p.m.
Ooh, past my bedtime, as we established, a couple weeks ago or last week, whatever it was.
I think it was last week. Well, it depends on when this drops, but yeah
we don't know. We're living in the past, living in the future. Actually, that's, kind of a segue here. But Nate, how you doing? You doing as good as we are?
Yeah. You know, what's funny is we used to talk about like the time differential for me and you guys, and it was like, super late for you guys. For me, it's like finally, we've been talking about it for such a long time. I'm on the same time zone, and I was getting a little, not gonna lie, I was getting a little drowsy earlier. Like, damn, you guys record this late? Like for me, it was like 7 p.m. Pacific, and I was like,
welcome to my world, motherfucker.
Eastern Standards, yeah, different ride, man.
I mean, before as everyone probably knows, I record in my basement. I was upstairs laying in bed, and I was like, shit, I better get up and walk around. I might fall asleep.
Well, we're going this late because I was at work until 9:30 because my job entails the second shift most of the time. So thanks for accommodating me, guys. I appreciate it.
We always say Pod never sleeps, but we almost fell asleep.
Pod sleeps. We're old now. Pod gets a little cat nap every now and then.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun one. It's kind of be half predictions, half assessing. It's
free flowing conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, no guest tonight. Nerds at the bar. I did have a nerdery in the wild story for you guys.
Ooh, I love nerdery in the wild.
Do you want to hear it?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say this. Hopefully I tell it well. I left this interaction with a smile on my face, and it made my day. So the story is this. I dropped my kids off at daycare. It's about 2 miles down the road. I'm driving back. There's 3 or 4 red lights from the daycare to my house. So I pull up to a red light, and it's 2 or 3 lanes, and there's a truck to my left. And I'm at the red light, and I mind my own business. I tend to not look around, whatever. But out of the corner of my eye, I see some movement coming from the car next to me. And so I'm like, huh, what the heck's going on there? So I just kind of slowly turn, and this guy is putting Animal from Muppet Babies to shame. He is air drumming. And I say air drumming. He was pounding the shit out of his steering wheel. Just going ham. Nice. And the crazy thing is, it wasn't look at me energy. It was I'm in my own world. I don't care where I am. It wasn't look at me energy. So I'm looking at him. I'm like, holy shit. This guy, most aggressive air drumming I've ever seen. And then that turns into him grabbing the steering wheel. We're still at the light here. Pretty long light. This was probably a minute and a half long.
Damn.
He grabs the steering wheel, leans over the steering wheel, and starts screaming. And I can't hear the scream, but I know it's not lip syncing. You can tell when, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He is screaming at the top of his lungs along with the music. And so at this point, I'm like, oh, this guy's fucking awesome. So I'm watching him, and my nerd brain kicks in, and I'm like, I have to know what he's listening to.
Absolutely.
I have to. I'm not continuing with my day or my life without knowing. So what do? I wave to him like this. I'm waving to him, get his attention.
Nice.
And I do the old school roll down the window. And this guy, for description here, kind of a beat up truck. It was probably a 2000 S10 or something. Big beard, typical Mainer, probably our age. So I go, hey, just like this. What are you listening to?
Fuck yeah.
And what do you think he says?
Oh boy. Metallica? I don't know.
Close.
First thing that came to mind is Slipknot because of the drumming at the intro.
He puts up his rock on symbol and his devil horns or whatever, and he goes, Slipknot.
Nice.
Hell yes. Good call, Nate.
But guys, hopefully I described it because it was insane. The guy was on a different planet, and I loved every second of it.
That's so good. Was it Face Melter Sean? Former WCOI?
No, it was not.
That description sounds like it could have been him.
It was Sean from Trawl, though. No. Hey,
it
Sean.
could have been him, too. Yeah. Shout out Trawl, shout out Sean. What's up?
But man, like, and actually, I left that interaction thinking, what else could have bonded us in that moment? And it was music. I mean, that was, unless there was like some sports bumper sticker and you started chatting it up, but that was it. It was just a nerd moment. Nerd sees nerd, as Nate says.
That Nerdery in the Wild is the best, especially when you can, find a person you've never met before who happens to be losing their mind on their steering wheel next to you, and you can just jump in and be like, "Hey, man, I want to know what you're listening to. What are you vibing with that gives me that I get to see this show right now? Let's go. Tell me." And he told you. That's awesome.
Well, a few years ago, I was at a red light with my wife, Alicia. This was a few years ago, and it was in the summer, so the windows were down, and this guy was listening to very loud music. I knew exactly what it was, so I tap Alicia. I go, "Watch this." And we're close. The cars are close. I go, "Rollins band?" And he goes, "Yes."
Yeah.
And then we drove off. And she's like, "What? How? Who? What?"
Yeah. Our wives do a little yeoman's work there when it comes to the bullshit that we come up with.
Dude, the camaraderie. I think the equivalent to that is like the show with like the no words, but like the t-shirt appreciation. You're like,
Yep. The head nod. Yep.
Yeah. The guy at the gym wearing the band shirt. Yeah.
Exactly. Clutch shirt. Nice, dude. I like it. Huh?
Yeah. Clutch. Yeah. That's another one that would do that for me. Yeah. I'm in. Well, that's fun, man. I'm glad that you had that interaction, and I should be more open to finding those people when that happens, because that, you make a friend, and then you're like, "Hey, man, I mean, here's an episode about us talking about the Slipknot catalog. Have fun."
Yeah.
138, and I didn't look it up. I'm pretty sure.
138 Ryan Sin. Yeah. Shout out Ryan Sin.
That was a great episode. That was a great concept.
So where are we at? Where are we going? Who's kicking this off?
I have something to throw at you guys to start. I was going to look up what number it was, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, let's we put out an episode almost 2 years to the day called Pod of the Future, episode 149. Right. Yeah, we put it on episode 149. It came out in late January of 2023. So we come up with some different things, predictions, where we think things are going to go around music venues, around collectibles, and around AI and music. So I listened to it a little bit today to kind of refamiliarize myself with what we had talked about. And there are a couple of things that stood out to me. I want to throw them at you guys. We talked about AI. We talked about big platforms, whether it be labels or streaming services, in this case, making music and filling it into different playlists to not have to pay anybody. And Spotify did that. They got caught doing that. Remember, like 6 months ago, 5 months ago? So we predicted that was going to happen, and it did happen.
One for one, baby.
And then another one that I thought was interesting was we talked about venues. And I don't think we were wrong, because it's only been 2 years. We said what was going to happen in the next 10. We talked about how we thought there'd be like kind of a consolidation and a little more Live Nation, a little more big venue, backer. And that's coming. Like Portland's going to get a new Live Nation venue that's 3,300 people or whatever. But we said there'd be less. And I think for us at the moment, there are more. We lost a couple, but we've gained a bunch of smaller ones out of the blue. I don't know if they're going to stay consistent. It's an interesting concept to see if some of those places can continue to support live shows. But it's been cool that we've gotten some random places that were like, "Hey, we're going to hold this hardcore show. Hey, we're going to hold this rap show, this rock show, whatever." More of that's happened than we thought. But it's only been 2 years. And I do think what we said, which was that Live Nation and the consolidation of some of these bigger venues taking over, is going to happen, and it's starting to happen in our city.
I mean, I think you're definitely seeing it in restaurants. You're seeing it in other pockets. It's tough to say, because if you ask me, hey, are there more or less venues than, I don't know, our heyday of going to shows in the mid 2000s? I would say probably my impulse would be less. And I would think you're getting more consolidation. Fast forward 10 years, I think we're going to be spot on. I think it's going to be dead eye. And like this Live Nation venue in Portland, what is that going to do to these, some of these others? I know it's more capacity, but I don't know, might eat some of their lunch. Maybe not the whole lunch, might take a bite, might take an appetizer.
Yeah, totally.
Food analogies.
Oh, I threw those in there for you, man. That's for you. It's to get you going.
You're back now, and you have been texting us kind of nonstop about how the opportunity here in our state, because you've been in SoCal for a long time. But you're back in Maine and you're like, we need more of this, we need more of this, we need more of this.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are we behind the eight ball? Are we ahead of the eight ball as far as the venues are concerned? I think we're going to get some of the big ones come in, but we have a lot of small ones at the moment. I hope it stays that way.
Yeah, like Twan said, I think it's spot on. Fast forward 10 years, the current climate is interesting, especially for me coming back after a solid decade, and random breweries and places putting on shows at will. It seems like really to fill a void because there's only so many spots, and Maine is still considered a secondary market. That announcement for Live Nation is probably been in the works for 6 or so years. I know they did have a venue here in Rock Row and Westbrook that was heavily invested in and shut down based on the community and the noise ordinance, which is unfortunate given that was voted in and then voted out. But I do think it'll course correct at that Live Nation venue. But ultimately, what we're getting here is like, how is it all going to shake out? I think all these little like mini places putting on shows are basically like the craft brews of the world. Like, hey, we can do it too. Does it have legs though long term? It's really hard to say, because if we're speaking on where the industry is going to go, there's going to be that continuum of exclusivity when it comes to touring. So if you're signing with Live Nation, you may be locked into playing that venue and that venue only. And with Maine being such an independent state, it's going to shake things up quite a bit.
When we already see that, right? We see that we miss stuff in Portland because there isn't the Live Nation venue, or there isn't a big enough room for them, or the room that is big enough is either a little too big or not very nice. And that new venue is going to alleviate some of that, but are we going to get everything? Like, I don't know, man. It's especially this time of year. It's January. It's cold. I don't know when this is going to run, but it'll probably still be cold, and that's tough. It's a tough ask to get bands to come up here because the weather sucks. Like, it's just not as fun a place to be as it is in July.
I think what you're going to see less of is the small club size venues, the 203 cap that are just venues. Those days, that can't really sustain itself. I mean, look at the places that are having shows now that are in that 200 and 300. They're not just that. It's a restaurant upstairs and there happens to be a venue downstairs, or it's a roast beef shop during the day and you pack people in at night. Stuff like that. I was actually at Otto's Pizza in South Portland tonight, and I was thinking to myself, you clear out some of these tables, you could have shows in here. It's that type of thing. It's the nerd brain, right? It's the Jason, what is it? The Jason Bourne in me. It's navigating the landscape. Where can I put this? Where can I put that?
Where are the exits? How could somebody come at me? Yeah.
Minority Report. I get the digital display.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, I honestly think about it. In Portland, Maine, if you had a 200, 300 cap venue, I mean, how many shows a week do you have to make it be worth it? I feel like a lot. And I don't know if there's that much demand for it.
Yeah, it's
we were spot on. That's a good one.
I think so, yeah. All right, where do we want to start? One of you guys have a topic you want to throw out there that we can kind of riff on, where we're at, where we're going?
Yeah, I'll start off. In this concept we've talked about with guests, we've talked about with just us, but where we're at, I think heavy music maybe reached an all-time high in 2024, with the exception of maybe like stadium era Metallica in the 80s and nu metal, right? Other than that, like we've said on this, you had Knocked Loose on Kimmel, you had Gojira at the Olympics. I just saw Spirit Box is headlining a tour at the MGM Boston, 5,000 capacity, like huge rooms. And it's not like nu metal peak, but we've eclipsed. Do you remember in like the mid 2000s when metalcore got on Ozfest and that was the new wave? You had, that was the Killswitch era, All That Remains era. I think where we're at now has eclipsed that. So it's massive, right? So where do you think I'm going to say we're going?
Course correct, back down.
Course correct, back down.
Yeah.
I think we're at the peak. I think we've scaled the mountain. We're at the summit and there's nowhere left to grab. I think we're at it. And what really made it sink in, and this is, I'm a Killswitch fan for life, and this is a positive thing. They got booked at the Civic Center in Portland, 8,000 cap. Now that show has no plans of, bring 8,000 people in the door.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably go 3 or 4. But I'm thinking to myself, as a selfish music fan, there's a tipping point where you got legacy Killswitch guys that would prefer to see them in an old room, and I'm not going in that big room. I probably will. I mean, let's be face it, guys. I'm probably gonna be at that show, but
I'll probably be there with you.
I think I don't see how they. I mean, who's the biggest bands in that scene? Like maybe Knock Loose, them, whatever. I don't think it can get bigger, and the only way it could get bigger is if bands like sold out or sacrificed their sound. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just think it's at the peak. Convince me I'm wrong, or tell me I'm right.
I think you're right, but there are things you can do, production wise, especially. You can make it an arena show specific to that circuit. So that might be something that Killswitch is doing. I mean, think about it. You were talking about Slipknot earlier. They started as a club band. Now they're a stadium band, really.
But they're an optics band.
They are an optics band for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we love them. I'm not, that's a pro Slipknot thing. But let's say Killswitch, where do they go? You know what I mean? I think could they fill more than this? If they can, I mean, shout out to those guys, but I think it's at its peak.
I think you're right. And I think that we're just waiting for the next innovation for that to change. That's the only way it probably does change, right? We don't have, we did have sort of an innovation, I say in air quotes, of Knock Loose staying true to being as abrasive as they are and as heavy as they are, and also continuing to become massive, one of the biggest bands in that scene, and in heavy music in general. Sort of like Killswitch before them, right? Like they were one of the first bands to do metalcore the way that it was at the time. Now everybody has tried to do it since for 20 years, but you need an innovation like that. You need an 03, 04 scene to bubble up to the surface to make it, if it's going to get bigger. And I'm not sure that's going to happen. I don't know what you do. I mean, they've been trying to do that in all kinds of, how many notes are there? You know what I mean? Like we talk about this all the time. Everything sounds like everything else. It is the way it is. There are people that do cool things, different things here and there, but as far as like, can it get bigger? I don't know how. I think you're right.
Yeah. I guess the last thing I'll say is right now it's in this like teetering sweet spot where you're still going to get the legacy fans, I think. But if you bring it a little further towards the mainstream, the foundation is going to break, I think. The legacy fans might teeter off. Now, maybe that will be offset by new fans and whatnot. But again, as a selfish fan, like going to a 8K cap room is different. Now, I'm not saying negative. I'm saying sometimes that's positive.
Right.
I mean, we've said it a few times, like Queens at the Civic Center was untouchable. Some people can do it, but others, you're right. Your shoes are a little too big for you. Killswitch has a sound that can fill that. So I'm very positive on that, but there's other bands that might not translate. And I think you might have people peter off. That's all.
Well, and this kind of goes back to a little bit of our conversation about smaller club venues and those staying relevant in this situation. I think obviously we've talked a decent amount of hardcore music on this podcast. We've had a decent amount of band members from that type of scene on. Those bands and those venues match up really well. When you put them in the big room, it's not quite the same for that scene. Like that scene thrives on the basement show, thrives on the small club show, the 300 cap room, the 200 cap room, because it's small, it's intimate, everybody's on top of each other. That energy of that show means something there. It's hard to do in an 8,000 cap room for any scene, but definitely for hardcore. So put them out there. Hardcore's had a huge upswing as far as popularity goes over the last 8 years, I would say. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Wasn't super into it to begin with, but doing this podcast, I've gotten more into it than I ever had been before. I think we see it more everywhere. And I don't know that you can put that in an 8K room. So that's not going to be the answer as far as heavy music goes. You need those small venues, but metalcore obviously can fill the big room, always has been able to. I just don't know where they go from here.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, I don't know how we'll be able to tell, but I mean, I guess I said the last thing I'll say. This is the last thing I'll say. In 2021 or 2022, it was right when shows were opening up after the pandemic, whatever. I saw Killswitch at the State Theater. You're trying to tell me that they got twice as big in that period of time? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I figured I'd kick us off with that one.
I love that. And I have to just tail off a little bit on that too, or riff off that, is the fact that I don't necessarily know if this was, and actually likely not, a band decision. I think we can all recall to the whole Black Keys controversy, where their management booked them on an arena tour, and they've never been an arena band. They've always been a club band. They always will be. Just because they sold a shitload of records doesn't mean that they should be filling arenas, and they couldn't, right? It undersold like crazy. So it was really a bad chess move on the management side. And I'm not trying to say that Killswitch's management pulled this, but it's like kind of obvious. Like, is it going to translate? I don't know. Could it? Potentially. Or it could be a massive fail. Because I know, as working arena shows back in California, there's a lot of greed. There's a lot of, oh no, it's going to sell great. You know, like brand new arena, brand new radio sponsorship. We got all this advertising. Everything's going to be great. Well, a week before the show, we're doing reloads. Reload is a keyword for like relocation. So we had to like reconfigure the whole venue into a half house. Pissed off customers. I bought front row. Now I'm 5 rows back.
Oh yeah, nightmare.
So you're better off underselling, even though there's money on the table, than, you know, hoping that it all is going to pan out and then and organically not even really make sense in the first place, like we're talking about with regards to an arena show for a show that was at a 2-cap room before. There's no way it's scaling at that that cadence. No way.
And here's the thing: is the show will be good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
For those that are there, will love it. They'll just move the stage up. You know what I mean? They'll make it feel full. But hey, I'm waving the Killswitch banner.
Oh, we're a huge Killswitch house.
I think Fit for a King. Shout out Tuck O'Leary. Yep. His band's opening. Kubla Khan, who's obviously big on, as I say, big on the internet, big in general, are opening. So who knows? Maybe it'll sell out and I'm wrong. And next summer they'll be playing Gillette Stadium. Who knows?
Maybe. And yeah, we've talked to 2 members of Killswitch and we've talked to Tuck of Fit for a King. So we're huge fans of both bands, and we're happy that it's coming through and playing a venue that we can go to see them. So,
and I'll be there.
This is not a knock. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be there. It's not a knock on anybody. We're just talking about where the ball's moving, right? That's a good one to start us off. Nate, what do you got?
Where's the puck? Where are you skating to the puck, Nate?
You know, I'm kind of geeking out on Overdrive this year. I think ever since we did that episode that like led into the new year, I've just been on Overdrive, like spreading myself thin, nerdery wise, let's put it that way. And something
can confirm. I get a lot of texts from you. Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm on it, dude. I think being in the ticketing side of the industry, heavily focused for the last few years, I've started to realize like a lot of opportunity, you know, and I think we all know that. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the game has been essentially capitalized or monopolized, for that matter, by the biggest players in the room, which are Access and Live Nation / Ticketmaster. But there is the antitrust lawsuit that is pending. I have a feeling that may actually go through. There's a lot of momentum behind that. And kind of this research and geeking out I'm doing is seeing all the other companies that are kind of like bubbling on the surface to kind of take up that slack eventually. There's companies in Europe. There's companies here in the US like Tixer and Dice. They're like indie companies, but they're like, hey, we're on the sidelines for that to just go through and we can take market share. And that wouldn't be the case if that lawsuit or antitrust lawsuit didn't have legs. And I know it's been something that's been brought up multiple times, but it should in theory be broken up. And if so, there's opportunity there. And to go with the small venues and independent venues that are not soaked up into that conglomerate, they can partner with them because they're free agents. And if that antitrust lawsuit breaks it up, then everyone's a free agent. So there might be a full-on windfall in terms of acquisitions, like call it, you know, selling a cell phone plan to all these venues. Like, hey, you had this, we're here, we got a better deal. Let's do a 10-year plan right now. Boom, done. You know, even if the venue gets acquired eventually, like you can sign them up. So I think the ticketing side of the industry is ripe, and I'm not just talking concerts. I'm talking sports, concert, music, events like Brewfest, everything under the sun. Yeah,
and I think everyone's ready for this. Like, no one cares where they like. Ticketmaster, it's truly because it as a music fan, it's because it's in most cases it is the only option, so you're forced to. Everyone's sick of it. Everyone's ready to move off it. Like if there was an alternative to Meta, probably just got shadow banned.
Yeah, right.
If there was an alternative to Meta, everyone's ready for it. So it's not like there's any brand loyalty that's going to be like someone like Dice or whoever else you said. I'm ready to move on in a heartbeat. In fact, it's a breath of fresh air when I buy tickets to a show and it's not through Ticketmaster, you know? And the fees, I just bought a ticket to the Pain of Truth show in Biddeford, May and next month. Fees are like $2 or $3. It was through Eventbrite.
Well, that's great. That's what it should be.
Fees for the Atmosphere show I just bought through Ticketmaster were $9.
Also, a little. I mean, you have to do that with the bigger venue, but with the smaller venue like the Pin of Truth show, you're going to get the smaller fee. I agree, Nate. I think this is actually something I had. Does Ticketmaster go away? And go away, I say very loosely, but does it go away? That was one of the big, thoughts that I had going into this episode was something's going to change on that front. We've seen small changes over the course of the last couple of years. I know, they have all those fees. They have to tell you where they're going and what they're coming, what they're for. They didn't have to do that before. It was just, fee, deal with it. That was like one of the first shoes to drop. But there are so many other options that will make, a free and fair market should do that, right? Will make things better for the consumer. And maybe you're only paying a couple of bucks in fees to just keep the lights on at the company that's doing it, and they can make a little bit of a profit and keep things going. But we don't need what's been happening to us as not just music fans for a very long time.
Yeah, the last ticket I bought, there was a fuck you fee. It was $5. It was a fuck off fee.
Only $5?
Go fuck yourself fee.
Damn. And we have a lot of episodes back there with Ticketmaster involved that you can go check them out. We've talked about this topic really since the start of the podcast. We're very passionate about being able to go to shows, and the way that we get in is a thing that we've talked about for years. But yeah, the fuck you fee is in there. It happens. And we've been sort of anti that since the start.
So is Pearl Jam is like, they're waiting for how this to pan out. They've been waiting for 30 years, right?
Yeah, right. Mid-90s. Yeah, absolutely. They wanted this to happen in 1994.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see the big names, how they react to if it were to dissipate, what the stance and public statements would be. Would they be, or would they hold back because of, again, like that industry, that company that we've mentioned, the aforementioned Live Nation, their tentacles are literally in every department. So you really can you badmouth them? Well, shit, our management is through Live Nation. So,
right.
The ticket thing might have dropped, but hey, like Irving Azoff is like my neighbor. So
yeah, it's tough because it is so far reaching, and so many people are beholden to that platform because that's what there is. It'd be nice for not them to go away. I'm not asking for them to go away. I'm asking for more options so that it's easier for everybody to get to where they need to go.
Exactly. And the only reason I brought it up in terms of the ones on the sidelines is because I didn't realize how complicated ticketing was until I really dove into it. I'm talking like the coding and everything. It's like the only reason there's only a few, Access, Ticketmaster being the big ones, is because it's so complicated and the industry is so hyper fast now that to have the infrastructure, you've had to been doing it for a long time in the first place.
And bullying things out of that for a long time.
Well, the reason it's so complicated is because they put profit first. Dynamic pricing, waiting rooms. I mean, that's where the coding comes in. I mean, let's face it, if it was a traditional old school walk up to the booth model, it's not rocket science to replicate just that digitally.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not. Yeah, first come, first serve. You just got to be able to handle the traffic for how busy the show's going to be. Yeah, weird, right? Not all this fucking, oh, hey, you buying, I want Celtics tickets went on sale today, and I've brought this up numerous times. Celtics tickets are now on sale. It's Friday at noon. Cool. Why are they on a secondary market all fucking ready? That's ridiculous. It should never happen.
Or even before. The thing is, though, is say the hammer comes down. The mallet comes down on Ticketmaster, there will still be no recourse for the fan. I mean,
no,
did anyone use any of those vouchers from...
I tried.
I did use the coupon. It was like a $3 coupon, and you could only package a few of them at once. I took advantage of those, but the
per. Yep.
Oh, geez. And that didn't even cover the fees. Go figure.
Yeah, I think I had like 9 of them, and I could use 2 per, and I think I ended up using like 4 of them total. And it was because I was like, I'm going to try to do the best I can to get my money back from these people, but not to the level that it was fair.
That's a good one, Nate. Obviously, we're we feel a certain way about
We're
it.
geeks, baby. We're geeks about this shit. We love to go to shows, and we want everybody to be able to go, for the level that they can go to. And again, give me that small $10, $15 show with a $2 fee every day of the week.
No bullshit. I've always, I've said I've been to like 500 shows or whatever. Not all those are shows with, fees and whatnot, but I've probably dropped thousands in fees.
Easily. Maybe even double-digit thousands.
Ooh. Yeah.
All right. Mine is going to piggyback off that just a little bit. And we kind of half talked about this in text today. I mean, it was either today or yesterday. I think festivals are at that same tipping point that heavy music was at, Anthony. I think they can't get any bigger.
Yes,
the price can't get any higher. And the ask of the fan can't be any more than it is right now. Because they will have to go away because nobody can do it. I don't know who goes to these things anymore. They're so exorbitant. The prices are insane.
Nate's like me.
Yeah, but like if there was one in my backyard, I would absolutely try to go to it because I could go home at the end of the day. But if you're traveling to Bonnaroo, if you're traveling to Rockville, you're traveling to any of these places, all these massive shows, I'm just coming up with a couple off the top of my head. All these massive, massive, massive events, the Vegas ones, when we were young, what was going to be Sick New World Day 2, year 2, but didn't happen. You're spending so much money to go and see a handful of bands that you want to see. Or maybe you don't know any of them and you're trying to find new bands. Or maybe you know all of them and you love it all. But it's so untenable for the average person to go do anymore. I think they're at the point where they are going to go away for the most part at that level.
Yeah, I want to hear your reaction to that.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack there, but I agree for many reasons. First of all, being the fact that post-COVID, I think everyone had just not disposable income, but just excitement to go see live music. So I think the metrics maybe internally were, damn, people are willing to pay. Let's just keep going. Let's just ride this out for years and let's plan 2027 way ahead. Let's pay the bands advances 4 years ahead. But I think that is teetering, and you're teetering down to the talent. The bills just aren't strong anymore. There's some that are strong. I think last year was pretty strong. This year, I feel like I'm sending you guys a bill every day.
So many yawn emojis. Yes.
Yeah, just like really, this is it. And it's probably because those bands had already kind of done their touring the last few years. So you got to take a break once in a while, but also you don't want to repeat the same bill. And then thirdly, like you just said, I'm echoing your sentiment there, which is I don't think people have the resources to do it. I mean, Agreed. If I did it, I'd be working the festival. I wouldn't be going to it. I'm definitely older now, so that's part of it. But yeah, it's hard to justify flights, hotel, food, the ticket, the energy, the accommodations. Like, yeah, right, man. You're looking at like you might as well go to Europe. You might as well go to Australia at that point. Do something really cool, Like,
no good.
Well, and I would need to be 22 to have the energy to do it. I'm not. I'm 40, but I now maybe have closer to the income to do it. When I was 22, I didn't have the income to do it. So I've been coming or going my whole fucking life on festivals. I've been to 2. Like, it's just never been something that has been a feasible thing for me. And I don't know how anybody continues to like, I'm going to go to Coachella and I'm going to spend fucking $15K on that weekend. Like, how? What the fuck are you doing?
I couldn't agree more. I think there's too many to the point where, say someone can go to one, you have to pick. You have to pick. And this is, for anyone listening, we're at the corner of the U.S. We live up in Maine. So there's a good chance, unless it's Boston calling, which that lineup ain't wetting my whistle. Unless it's that, it requires a flight. It requires lodging. It requires all that. It's just to get there is, I mean, what's a hotel these days? 300 plus a night.
Any major metro, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, minimum. Depending on it. Yeah. And they all dynamic price. Hey, we've got this massive festival in town. Let's fucking up the rates weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you even have the resources to go to one, you probably are just picking one. And my beef with festivals is if it's one of these big outdoor ones, like it's like a menu. It's like, what this reminds me of is the Cheesecake Factory. I was like, they got the biggest menu. Well, it's like,
look at all these bands.
You can only eat one. You're only eating one meal. You can only see one band at a time. So Nate's like, yes, a food analogy.
Yeah, I love it.
So you're gonna have to cherry pick. One thing I did like about like New England Metal Hardcore Fest and all those things is they rotate the headliners, right? there's rotating stages, dual headline stages. They rotate times, so you can see. But even still, sometimes you're navigating through the crowd. I don't know. I'm not anti-fest. I've been to a number of them, and they're fun. Not at 40 though, and not at these 2025 prices. I'm with you. Festival season's over.
I like the smaller, more concentrated festival. Like, give me that. Don't give me the here's our flyer. It's the biggest possible Instagram picture we can come up with. It's got 75 bands on it, 64 of which no one's ever heard of. Cool for them. I'm happy for them. I hope there's a band in there I like. I hope there's 10 bands in there that I like. But that now you're going to come to the middle of nowhere, Tennessee, to see it. And I'm picking on Bonnaroo, but you know what I mean? Any of them. It's craziness. And the fact that there are as many of them now as there are, I don't know how any of them continue to go or operate, because I don't know anybody that can afford to do any of it. I know one person or two people that can afford to do that. I ain't one of them. So it's very tough, and it makes me sad that more fans can't experience those things.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I think, Nate, to piggyback on what you said, I think early days of pandemic, people had disposable income. Right now, I think a lot of people are leveraged. I think the next wave is like, all right, I can't go to that festival because I can't pay my bills. Like it's going to be that.
Yeah, we're there.
Yeah.
Or I can't go to shows because I can't pay my bills, which I hope we don't get to, but it could happen.
Good one. That is a good one, man. I'm going to jump in here. I don't know if you guys saw the metrics. In 2024, vinyl sales declined year over year for the first time in a long ass time. I think it was like over a decade. A decade of rise. For the first time, sales plummeted 33%. Now,
wow,
that's a big number, but the number before that was big, right? You know what I mean? It's all percentage based, right? So just for context, and I pulled up the metrics here. In 2021, that's probably when 2020, 2021 is kind of when I got back into vinyl, right? And so these check out for me. But in 2020, vinyl had a 46% increase year over year. 2021, 51%. And that's from the 2020 jump, right? 2022, 4%, so small increase. 2023, 14% increase. And then this year, 33% decline. Yep. So that's kind of the state of the union. And that checks out, and that actually piggybacks on just what we were talking about. Disposable income.
Mm-hmm.
At some point you have, at some point you have enough records. So that's where we're at. So where are we going?
I have nowhere to put them. You're right.
So where we're going is this. I think it will drop off again. Yeah, I don't think it'll drop off to a third, but I think it's going to drop off again. I just don't think it'll continue. I think vinyl's too expensive. People don't have the disposable income. I also, for me personally, there's less new releases that are worthy of a vinyl purchase.
Especially
and you know what?
$40 a purchase.
There's only so many reissues that I need, right? Here's where the puck's going, my friends. Cassettes and CDs, I think naturally will rise. And you might say, well, I can't play those. Well, most people, and I would put my money on this, most people don't play their vinyl records.
You're right.
A CD,
absolutely.
Even at a moderate order, say a small band orders 1,000 CDs, you can probably get them made for $2 or $3. Maybe I'm out of touch, but I remember back, again, maybe I am out of touch, but I remember in like the mid 2000s, you could get a CD made for $1.
Well, and you're not waiting for it for how long, because there's only a handful of CD pressing. There's not a handful of CD pressing plants, so you're right. Yeah,
they're just as collectible. I mean, a cassette tape? You kidding me? A cassette tape's rule. You just bought one, Tone, the Nevermind one, right?
I did. Yeah, our boys in Nevermind. I had to just to support whatever they're doing. I don't have any way to play it, but I'm in to own the piece of ephemera, as Mark Weinstein said of on episode 8 or 9, 7, whatever it was, 7, I think.
And Trawl, I've bought every CD.
Yep.
I just bought Tempest a little late to the game. I didn't get in the 2024 metrics. Sorry, guys, but I bought it 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was up in Lewiston at the Lewiston Bull Moose. They had it.
You got it on the 2025 metrics, because they'll put out something later this year, I bet, and that'll help them. Yeah.
But it's cool. Like, I mean, yeah, the real estate of what you can work with is smaller, right? The CD packaging smaller, but it's all there. You know, I think we're going to see that boom just out of kind of necessity. I don't know. How many fucking more box sets on vinyl do you need? I don't need any more. Sorry.
I think you're right, because something that bummed me out about vinyl is the fact that, again, to your point, is the re-releases, but it's like a splatter, or it's a, it's just a different variation of the re-release of the vinyl.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's no longer limited. You guys are just you're milking it at this point, and it's
There's
pretty
a
obvious.
lot of that. There's a
Remember
lot
the
of
Red
that.
Hot Chili Peppers graphic that we were kind of sharing for the last album? What was that last album called?
There were two. They put out Unlimited Love, and then they put out the other one.
Unlimited Love.
Yeah.
They had a graphic that they posted online. It was like 30 variations. And I'm like,
Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
come on.
There was a year at Christmas, there was like all of our bands that we had talked to were like, yeah, it's going to be 7 months before, and that's the reason that we're waiting on the release,
Because
and blah,
Adele,
blah, blah,
right?
because Adele and Taylor Swift put out and owned every little bit of the vinyl pressing that was going on, so there's that too.
I mean, everything is cyclical, and I think this downtrend, I think, will continue. There's only so much music, there's only so much money, there's only so much space. Tone's out of space.
I am completely out of space. It's the reason I've bought less vinyl over the last 6 months, and not because I don't want to. Like, I'm always like, looking around, finding stuff, and hopefully picking something up if I like it. But I'm with you. There's not as many things out that I want to buy. A, and B, I don't have any room to put it anywhere. And at $40 a whack for a new release, like, I would love to spend $15 on a smaller band's thing, but I'm not gonna spend $40 on a medium to big band because it's too much.
Let's not forget shipping too. Shipping,
Every
chances
time.
are we can't get it locally, so we're forced to order it. Shipping sometimes can be half the price of the record.
And they won't come to Maine to play, so why? I'd buy it off of the person in front of me. If I could walk into a venue at a $15 or $20, even fucking $35 ticket with a $3 fee, which we just talked about, and buy the record from the front man or front woman, I will do that. But I don't get that because it doesn't come to my home state, and I don't want to drive 7 hours to see somebody. So I'm fucked in Maine. This is basically the point.
Help us help you.
This is why we do this, so we can actually see these people and talk to them.
Oh man, what's funny about the cassette thing is that was like a novelty merch item the last like 4 years. I think Team Sleep, one of Chino's many side projects, put out like a cassette and it was limited to like 200. I'm like, that's cool, maybe I'll get that. That's pretty rad. But to your point, like there's a resurgence because of the nostalgic factor. Like, oh, it was vinyl, now it's cassette. You can still go to a thrift store and buy some really good albums on cassette for like 50 cents. And so I can see those appreciating, and they have the dust on it, and like they're obviously like originals. There's not going to be re-releases of cassettes. There could be, actually, there probably will be, but you can still get them. And I don't think there's anything cooler than getting an original cassette, like an original vinyl, at a whole dusty, dingy store. Like this came out in like 1977. This is rad.
You know what I just thought of is the old cassettes where the booklet had the perforated creases.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck those things.
Yeah,
why would they do that?
Just to ruin it so you go buy another one. That's why. I'm with you, Nate, up to the point where it sounds, of all the mediums, it sounds the worst, right? Yeah. And it can get worn out by playing it similar to vinyl, but not to it doesn't sound as good to begin with. And CD is, pretty much king when it comes to that replayability factor, as long as you take care of them. Vinyl, you're going to beat up just because of time, and cassettes just don't sound as good. So that's my only issue with cassettes. It's always been my issue with cassettes. I've bought some. I have some. I think about 20 Feet That Way is the Top Gun soundtrack on cassette, but still, nice. I don't know that I'll ever listen to it because A, I don't have a cassette player anymore, and B, they don't sound that good. So I'd rather listen to it where it sounds good.
But for a band, I don't know the margins, but I would think it's a good it's an approachable price point as a fan, and it's kind of it serves dual purposes. Like, I get something tangible, I can look at it, and I can play it. You know what I mean? It's I don't know. I think we'll see more of that. And I don't know, maybe there's barriers. Maybe there's just like one plant left that does it. Who knows?
Well, when we talked on episode 149, this is another thing that I heard us say. There was nowhere to make vinyl at the time, to produce vinyl quickly at the time. And there really probably still isn't as many places now, but it's a little less backlogged as it was then because of coming out of the pandemic and bands wanting to like put their stuff out. We talked about recycling either old shitty vinyl that no one wants or finding another way to make it and put, press records to a certain thing that would also still play. And I still think that might happen in the next 8 years. So I don't think we're off on that one.
Yeah,
even
some
though it
other
hasn't happened yet.
modality that people can,
Exactly. Yeah.
What would that even look like?
A vinyl, I think it would just be trash,
Yeah.
Gotta do something with our trash. Might as well turn it into music.
It's like hey, plastic straws are out. Here's a soggy paper straw.
Yeah, which is like also going to end up in the fucking ocean. Like, what are we doing here?
And there's more plastic in the Starbucks lid without the straw.
You're right. It's a bigger lid. What the fuck are we doing? Nate, what do you think, man? We're Anthony and I are on one right now. I want to hear your thoughts on this shit.
No, like I said, with the cassettes especially, and CDs even, the nostalgic thing's never going to die. It's just everything kind of rotates and kind of comes back around again. So I think it's a viable.
It's coming back around again.
Yeah.
Are you doing the Rage song thing? Evil Empire Edition.
I should. I thought about it tonight, but I wasn't prepped, so I was like, I can't do it tonight.
All right, try to weave in Vietnam without turning heads.
It's just, I think the sad part is I got rid of so many CDs. Am I going to be that 70-year-old like, oh man, I got rid of all those CDs and now they're worth a fortune? Oh, well.
They're never going to be worth a fortune. There's some that will, but most of them continue to not be worth money. I mean, I got rid of all of my CDs like 12 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And I've rebought some of them back just because I know some of the interplay with the band has changed and maybe they re-recorded shit and streaming only has the re-recorded shit and I don't want that. I want the old stuff. So that's a thing, but I wish I hadn't sold them all, but I don't know where I'd fucking put them. Those take up space too.
I'll say this. Anyone that is like a big music fan like us that has collected all this music over the years, try to hang on to it. That's my advice. I sold off half my vinyl in 2012. I regret doing that. And then I have like 2,000 CDs. I consolidated. I basically got rid of all the jewel cases and I put them in binders. I wish I didn't do that. Like, we've all been to Rob's. That wall of CDs is sick, man.
Yeah, it is cool.
There's nothing like it.
If you pay attention to our socials, I did all the Blink-182 singles, radio singles. He had them all. So that's from Rob's wall of CDs a couple weeks ago.
Man, I do regret that. Like, and there was a lot of, it was like trash bags of jewel cases. I wish I didn't do that, but I still got everything else. Get the CD, get the booklets, get the back thing.
Nice,
but in some cases I had like cut and bend stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, Nate, you get another one?
Yeah, Nate, let's wrap us here with this one. Land the plane with this one.
All right, this one's multifaceted.
Of course it would be. It's you. I'm not shocked by this at all. This one's going to go for 25 minutes.
Milk this.
I think we did talk about this a little bit last time, but I think there's a lot of opportunity again. I'm always thinking opportunity, especially getting back to the Northeast on, I guess, revenue share. And collaborations are basically just ripe. We've seen a lot of things come together, like cell phone companies offering Spotify. I think T-Mobile does it, right? Like a Sirius XM or T-Mobile Spotify combo. I think a lot of these things are going to come together and the opportunities to work together in that realm. But one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is the publishing element in the music industry. Is this going to continue to happen? I think we saw a lot of private equity buying full catalogs of music. I don't see that slowing down, mainly because of the people.
Not gonna. You're right.
The people that have these catalogs in their name, if they own the rights to their music, I mean, you cash out now, you might as well, because it's all going to streaming and all that anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And with publishing, you can do anything. That kind of goes with the collab thing that I was just talking about. Movies, TV shows, commercials, products. It's limitless. So I think, and when I say multifaceted, that's why I'm kind of like throwing this all in one big bucket. But I think private equity is just getting started in the music industry.
Yeah, I agree. Because I think if you don't, say I'm Neil Young, for example, and I keep my catalog.
Oh shit, we just got banned from the Reddit again.
He's, think of it. I mean, imagine looking at his catalog as an investment portfolio. He's all in on one stock. He's all in on his music. What if this, some scandal, you know what I mean? And shit tanks. I think for a guy like that, for example, who's getting older, get out of the game. That way you can, diversify your portfolio, as they say.
Yes. Wu-Tang Financial? Yes.
You would-
I'm right there with you. And you said exactly what I was thinking. Somebody who's been around a while is a legend like Neil Young or Bruce Springsteen or whoever, and they say, I'm going to sell my catalog for 400 million and set up my family for generations, or a couple, at least a generation. My kids are fine already. Let's set up my kids' kids and their kids maybe. Why the fuck not? What are you going to get out of it after you're gone? What am I going to get out of any of this after I'm gone? Sell it. let's see what we can get out of it, so we can make things easier on the next generation of youngs.
The other kind of flip side of this is the private equity or whoever that's buying this, they're assuming. So take Bruce, maybe his catalog doesn't translate to the next generation. Now, I think it will. I think his music's timeless, but there's going to be a time where, I mean, think of this, guys. The oldies to us sounds like the oldies.
Yeah. I know.
It's gone. It's not coming back. You know, I don't think it'll apply for Bruce, but like take Neil Young. Is my son gonna like Neil Young? I don't think so. I think this is where it shifts. Neil Young, get the bag, get out, sell it.
Yeah, and like our songs, our bands are being played on classic rock, right? They have been for a while now. Green Day has been on our classic rock station. Pearl Jam has been on our classic rock station. Those bands are the ones next to sell catalogs, whereas the bands that we grew up with hearing as classic rock have sold so that they're not going to translate to the next generation of whatever's going on. I hope they do. I hope people pay attention to some of that stuff because it's cool, but we're all a little blip on the timeline, so I understand it.
Yeah, I think you're both spot on. One thing I had to mention, again, from the multi-pronged approach here is the fact that when you're selling your rights to your music, call it Neil Young or Bruce Springsteen for that matter, the publishing, the distribution, the licensing, but also they have the full rights to every part of that music. You can break it down. You're talking samples, what Kanye West did with old beats and whatnot.
Commercials, ads, all that stuff. Yep.
Exactly. You can even break it down to just certain bars and use AI to make a song that based on data that this definitely works. This has sold in the past. We just use this little part of this song, splice it into this emerging artist, and just use that formula, and boom. It's just like copy and paste, really. So I think there's more to it than just buying a catalog.
Well, then, I mean, I remember growing up at the USM Planetarium. It was like Pink Floyd Laser Light Show. It's
yeah.
all these applications that, and when actually, Nate, when you just say who's a big legacy merch band, the Ramones. Just say the Ramones.
Oh,
right?
Okay, even further back. Yep.
Yeah, you can find them everywhere. Say they sold off
Led Zeppelin.
Are they selling their merch like their logos and all that too? Because
I wonder. Yeah.
There's so many plays with that, you know?
Yeah, they own the rights to like all of it. Like here's the Ramones t-shirts from 1977. Let's sell those. So we own that too. So let's sell that shit to JCPenney. Yeah.
Oh man, actually, it's funny. This is crazy. I was scrolling through Instagram yesterday. Well, I scroll every day, but yesterday I was scrolling through and there was a PacSun ad, and they were selling Converge t-shirt. I'm like,
wow,
dude.
What?
I saw an Old Navy one that had a random band. I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, fuck off. A and B. I'm saying it. The Ramones aren't that good. It is what it is. It missed me. I'm sorry.
I meant to send this to you guys. I was at H&M a couple weeks ago, and they had like a vintage looking Nine Inch Nails Downward Spiral t-shirt. It was sick. It was sure. It looked retro. I mean, H&M, they try to do the retro thing, whatever. It looks sick, No one has to know you got an H&M, guys.
It was probably a medium, and it wouldn't fit any of us.
Exactly.
So
it was a Europe medium.
Yeah, which is a fucking extra small in America. So good luck fitting into that. Me, never gonna happen.
I took a little video. I'll send it to you guys.
Put it on the stories, bro. Let's go.
Story it up, guy.
Dude, that's so funny you said that, because when we ran into each other with our kids, Twan, and I was talking about selling the merch that me and Tone were together that I'm going to sell on eBay. Like band shirts that I actually like, but because like merch was so like uncomfortable and thick and like boxy back then, I'm like, I'll never wear this. But if H&M reworked it into like a slim fit, light cotton shirt, I'd be like, yeah, I would wear it. And if it's worn out in the whole nine, because I want my shirts that are all worn out and faded, but like, dude, they're like super thick. What's that company that we talked about? Giant.
Giant. And Gildan's are not great too.
Yeah, the heavy.
They're like itchy.
Actually, so you said Giant. That made me think of Deftones because I have the Deftones white pony, the classic red with the white, logo, whatever. We're talking predictions. This might be the mic drop of the episode.
Yeah.
Deftones will put out the album of the year this year. Ooh. Read my lips. It's happening.
I hope so. And
I think they're going to come back in a fucking monster way.
Text Steph and let's get him on the pod. Let's go.
I got it. Yeah.
UFOs are real. He was right. So let's do it.
Flat Earth, maybe a flat Earth.
We could flat Earth it. I don't care. I just want to talk to the dude about the music.
It's going to be heavy. It's going to be shoegazy.
It's going to be what all the bands lyrics. Are trying to do right now.
It's going to be everything, bands. Baby.
You could be right, Twan. I mean, I hope you're right. But speaking of like the kickoff to the episode, their tour is an arena tour, which is they've done it before. They did it with White Pony, but they also went back to theaters. So there's something big is planned for that band. If they're playing like Madison Square Garden and like the Forum,
guys, they went back to Casino Ballroom in 2009.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I wish I'd gone to that. We saw him at Kabang in 2011.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yep. 2012. That's amazing. That should not have happened, but it did. So I'm excited for that. That's a great way to end the episode. Deftones album of the year 2025 confirmed by Twan in January of 2025. You heard it here first.
Kurt Loder. Ding 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 ding.
I'm Kurt Loder with an MTV News Brief.
Cheers, nerds. Cheers, drones. Yeah. See ya.
Cheers, nerds. Cheers, drones. Peace, podheads.
Cheers, drones. Cheers, nerds. Cheers, Chi Chang. Rest in peace.
Thank you for listening to Podioslave. We are at Podioslave on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places that you can find us on social media. Facebook, Podioslave Podcast. YouTube, Podioslave Podcast there. Email us at podioslavepodcast@gmail.com. And hey, if you want to become a supporter, click on the link at the bottom of the episode and give us $1, give us $5. It keeps the lights on, keeps us going. We really appreciate that stuff. Thank you.